We are delighted that your eyes are on Church of Uganda Family TV. I welcome you from the Family Talk Show. I believe your lives have been enriched in that way. And here we are to enrich your lives again with HealthPort. HealthPort is brought to you by Mukalazi University School of Public Health together with Church of Uganda Family TV. Edrine Mukalazi is my name. This program is basically looking at early childhood development and maternal health. And yes, I know tomorrow is the big day, the long-awaited day, and people are really excited. However, the 30 minutes that you give us this evening would really make a difference in your life. That is why I beseech you to stay tuned on HealthPort and listen to what we have today. We are delighted to be with Dr. Geoffrey Musinguzi. He's a public health specialist and a research fellow at the School of Public Health, Mukalazi University. And he's working in the Department of Disease Control and Environmental Health. And the reason he's here today is to take us through what we call cardiovascular diseases. And yes, it might have been a common term. You might have heard about cardiovascular diseases. However, do you know what they are? Do you know how they come about? Yes, we know we are going into Christmas and some of us have a poor health or poor health habits. That is why he's here to warn us, to guide us, and to take us through the whole package of cardiovascular diseases. Doctor, you are most welcome today in HealthPort.
Thank you, Edrine,
yes,
for the invitation, and thank you for hosting me on HealthPort.
We are indeed grateful, and kindly greet our viewers, and then we proceed.
Yeah, I greet all our viewers here before you, Dr. Geoffrey Musinguzi, and I would like to talk about cardiovascular diseases, but specifically the risk factors for cardiovascular diseases.
Well, Doctor, we know tomorrow is Christmas and people are excited. People saved their money from January and they're willing to spend it between tomorrow and 31st. Yeah, but maybe we get back to the beginning. What are cardiovascular diseases? Because why I talk about that is some of the things people are going to invest their money in are actually the risk factors or the causes of these cardiovascular diseases. So let us get back to the definition of cardiovascular diseases.
So cardiovascular diseases are actually a group of disorders of the heart and the blood vessels. Yeah, and there are quite a range of these, and their attribution is based on which organ is actually affected. For example, in the brain, you have heard about stroke. You have heard about maybe transient ischemic stroke in the brain.
Yes.
And then in the heart, you have heard about heart failure.
Yes.
You have heard about heart failure is the same as maybe myocardial infarction. You have heard about other, there are other aspects like in the legs, in the
paralysis and all that.
Where that's paralysis, just symptoms, just showing something that's behind, but you call it a peripheral artery disease. So the group of disorders actually affecting the heart and the blood vessels. For example, if the heart is involved, then you can probably have a heart attack, you can have a heart failure. So that's what we call, if the brain is involved, you can, for example, have what they call a hemorrhagic stroke. Maybe one of the vessels has actually heart burst, then blood can be released in the brain. So depending on the organ that is involved, it will be attributable to the cardiovascular disease. It could be the kidney that can be actually involved. It could be the lungs that can actually be involved. It could actually be also the eye and all other parts of the body. Yes, yeah. So whatever part of the body
in a layman's language, you tend to limit cardiovascular diseases to maybe stroke, because I think it is what we think is commonest.
Yes, but actually that is really limiting it. Wherever you have a blood supply to any part of the body, there can be a failure as a result of CVD or cardiovascular diseases. Yeah, so depending on what organ is involved, you'll actually have a CVD, because it's all about the saturation of the blood and then the functionality of the vessels, if they actually fail. If it's within the heart and the heart fails, you may actually go, for example, high blood pressure, which may actually result into the heart actually failing. So there are a group of disorders of the heart and blood vessels. So I want to really limit it at that.
Oh.
Now, these cardiovascular diseases are driven by what we call risk factors. And these risk factors are the most important we want to really give attention to.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of studies happen across the globe. There's one specific one I want to talk about. It's called the Inter-Heart It was done in all regions of the world in 52 countries. And they wanted to assess...
Was Uganda part of these countries?
Well, in Africa there was one country, unfortunately. Uganda was not part of it. But nevertheless, the results really from 52 countries overall are very important.
Yeah.
And you cannot disregard as much as Uganda was actually part of this country. Yeah, so these risk factors, we realized that actually the myocardial infarction or a heart attack was attributable to mostly 9 of these risk factors. And we call them like the notorious 9 risk factors.
Notorious?
Yes, yeah. Why notorious? Simply because they're not as easy. Speaking about them is easy, but actually trying to create a control or dealing with them is not really as easy as you actually think.
Sure.
So we want to really, yes, Edrine to go through them one by one, and then also expound more on how they play a synergistic role in actually increasing our risk of developing cardiovascular diseases, for example, stroke, heart attack, heart failure, or any other thing. Yeah, so I'll start with one, smoking, for example. Yes. Now, smoking is what we call active smoking, but also what we call passive smoking. Yes, yeah.
I remember in our primary school science.
Right, yes, yeah. So active smoking, that's when you actively smoke. But passive smoking, I'm smoking, and you're not a smoker, but we are like in this room. So as I smoke, you're actually also inhaling the smoke you actually, that I'm actually, the smoke. So passive smoking is as dangerous as active smoking.
Oh.
I want to start it from there.
Me, I thought, now when maybe you're smoking, I'm not smoking, as long as I'm not smoking, then I'm safe.
You're not safe as long as you're exposed in the environment. So as a family, maybe since this is a family TV, what can we do if we are in homes where they are actually smokers?
Because some fathers go ahead to smoke in the living room when even the children are seated and the wife.
Yes, that's what I want to really address now. If the father that is smoking can't really do without smoking, he can actually protect his children, he can actually protect his wife, and sometimes the wife can actually be pregnant. So you can actually protect your family if you yourself you can't stop smoking. So draw away from your family. You can smoke from outside when you're finished your smoking, and if you can't do without it, come back when you're finished smoking. Don't smoke in the presence of your family.
What about these ones who smoke the pipe?
Of course.
Is that also as dangerous as smoking cigarette?
Well, what is in the pipe, that's the most important thing. Because in the pipe they put in tobacco. So the point is not the mode of smoking, but the point is that what are you smoking? So that's the most important thing. So I think we are safe if we say smoke away from your family. That's the key message.
Now, still under smoking,
yes.
I now bring to your attention people, especially in urban settings, who have limited space. So someone is renting a single room and they want to light their charcoal stove, so they use pieces of paper to light it, and then that soot occupies the whole room. Are they really safe, or they suffer the same effects as that one who smokes?
Now, that one I call it pollution. That pollution, not necessarily smoking, and of course air pollution from maybe charcoal, as you light your charcoal, as you cook. Of course not with smoke.
Because they still inhale.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as much as it is dangerous, it may not be as dangerous as
smoking.
Yes, yeah. However, it's also not advisable to really light and cook in small environment, closed environments. If you have a small room, cook from outside. That would be much preferable. But let's get back to
the smoking.
Yes. Yeah. So, however, I don't want to stop it at that. Also, the person smoking, they need to put in an effort to actually stop smoking. Yes, we know sometimes it's not as easy as that. But what we know is that depending on how many cigarettes you smoke, the more you smoke, the higher the risk of cardiovascular disease. It means if you start reducing on the quantities of cigarettes you smoke, you're actually reducing your risk. So that's of course important. But of course, if you completely get off cigarette smoking, then you're better than the person who is actually smoking, even if it was one cigarette stick. Yeah, so it's important to actually get rid of smoking. Of course, smoking can be very addictive, and sometimes people need support, so they may need to go to the hospital.
Surprisingly, it is even included on the box. That smoking is addictive.
Yes, yeah. So that is smoking, and the more you smoke, the higher the risk of developing cardiovascular diseases. Of course, the grading goes down if you start reducing your smoking. Like in the work we are doing in Mukona and Wikwe, I know probably missed our dissemination meeting.
Yeah.
We realized that even not, as much as people are not stopping smoking, there was an effort to reduce daily smoking, which is a positive signal. So that can move them into the direction of cessation of smoking. So that's number one.
Yeah.
And I want to leave that. I got the second risk factor. Physical inactivity.
Physical inactivity.
Yes.
Mm.
Now, that's also a very important risk factor for cardiovascular diseases. Our bodies were created to function, to move, they are locomotive, they actually move, to work. Yeah, unfortunately, many of us have moved away from villages to the urban lifestyles, where we comfortably sit in the shops. You can sit from morning to sunset. Yeah. So you realize that if you don't exercise your body, you're actually increasing your risk of cardiovascular diseases. In fact, we call it sedentary. If you're so sedentary most of the time, that's not very good. So it's recommended, at least in a day, ensure you have at least 30 minutes of physical activity for at least 5 days in a week. Otherwise, most days of the week, have at least 30 minutes of physical activity. And physical activity can take all sorts of physical activity. It could be, for example, skipping a rope, brisk walking, running, jumping, swimming, anything that makes you a little bit breathe faster will help you gain some quality of life than when you remain sedentary. So
I look at someone who maybe works here with us at Church House. So they come, sit in office in the morning. As they're going out, they take a lift. And then while going home, maybe they stay in Wandegear. So they walk up to Wandegear. Is that part of exercising?
That's good enough, of course. That's really good. But I want to emphasize that as much as they live in Wandegear, none of them will still take a taxi, which is just next door. Yes, that would be really good if somebody, instead of going by taxi to Wandegear, if they can actually walk, because they have spent a whole day sitting, that will actually give them some health gains. But also, it's not advisable to sit the whole day, even when you're working here, where you do a lot of sitting. Have some breaks when you can do some bit of stretching, some bit of walking down a little bit and up, so you don't have to really go the whole day without some bit of exercising. Have some breaks. That intermittent break will help you gain some good health.
And then we also have a group of people who have gone to villages for their Christmas holidays. And then because they have nowhere to go, they sleep the whole day, they're in bed, they come out of bed, take breakfast, go back. Come out, take lunch, go back.
I mean, that's just not good practice. It doesn't matter whether you are in a village or you are in an urban setting, you need to do some bit of physical activity. Of course, from the work we are doing, for example, in Mukona and Week, where we see fairly very high levels of physical activity, which is very, very impressive. Of course, what we also see is that even within Mukona and Week, as you go towards urban, people become less physically active. Yeah, so, and the key message is have at least 30 minutes of physical activity a day. Number 2, put it on your schedule.
Oh.
Yes, because when you don't schedule it, you'll always skip it. And the week will go, you say, well, I don't have it, so put it on your schedule. That's
because we are human beings.
Yes.
So doctor, let's shortly go for a commercial break and we shall be right back.
Brethren, yes we can. We can clear the debt of Church House. And I want to invite you to give generously to the love gift. May God bless you as you give.
Welcome back from the commercial break. This is Church of Uganda Family TV, and the program you're watching is Health Pod. Health Pod is a program brought to you by Makerere University School of Public Health, together with Church of Uganda Family TV, basically looking at early childhood development and maternal health. However, today we are taking a different dimension. It's not so different, but we are now looking at cardiovascular diseases. This is so important. It is so important. This message is important. Now that tomorrow is Christmas and some of you are going to rest up to next year, please listen to this message. It is important. We are with Dr. Geoffrey Musinguzi, taking us through. Doctor, before the commercial break, we were looking at the risk factors, and you had talked about the physical inactivity, where people do not want to really exercise and all that.
Yes. So what can families do? Because really, this is a family program.
And we want to enrich their lives.
Exactly, yeah. Now, physical activity can be boring when you do it alone.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
You can actually gain a lot if you do it with your family members.
That's why some people say, if maybe you're walking to town, you're from Zambia coming to town, someone says, if I walk alone, I take a lot of time. And if we are many, then the movement becomes faster. Yes. So I think it's because of the boredom you're talking about.
So the family, as a family, but there are a lot of activities you can even do within your homes, even if you don't have a very big environment. Exactly. There's a lot you can do together in terms of physical activity.
As a family?
As a family. And try to do it as a family. Because when you do it alone, you soon really lose it. And two, combine several, don't only do one form of physical activity. That brings the boredom. So as a family, you can skip the rope together with your children, isn't it? You can play football together if you have a small space, you can play together. There's a lot you can do as a family.
Because I think you don't need a stadium to play football with your young boys.
No, for sure, no. Yes, yeah. And interesting, a lot of very good programs these days on physical activity.
We also have Family Fitness Watch and Family TV.
So you can actually watch together as a family and do the fitness together as you watch the TV. So in fact, you're enjoying the television, so you're watching, but on the other hand, you're exercising your body. So the benefit is more than one.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll talk about is stress.
Stress?
Yes, yeah. So you're alleviating stress because of, you know, the joy, the fun you're having as a family. As you exercise, you're trying to who is doing it better than the other. Is it the father? Is it the mother? Is it the children? So all that will give you health gains. Yes, and I think I would really emphasize that where possible, you need to do it together as a family. And this is a holiday. For holidays, Christmas season, so that means it's really family together. So make sure that you put this together. Of course, I'm going to talk about also diet as a risk factor. Yeah, we're going to eat a lot of these foods which are called high risk factor foods for sure during this season. Yeah, so it's even an opportunity that even do more of these physical activities to be able to break down some of the energy you're actually consuming. Okay. So I'll move away from physical activity. Yes. Now I want to go to diet.
Diet.
Yes.
Diet.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is Christmas, doctor. People have shopped already. Their chicken, their meat, their everything, you know. Like you just need to look into their kitchen and then
yes, many cows
exactly
hens, chicken, goats and the rest. Many of those things are really going in preparation for Christmas.
Yes.
Yes, and of course it's not always only that Christmas day. It's always a week of feasting until
exactly you have to fast.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And I'm sure during that time some people gain some bit of weight, and of course the other alcohol which I also talk about. But anyhow, diet is important. Yeah. Now, what we don't like most, which is sometimes called, that is for, you know, the white man, fruits and vegetables. Now, it's important to eat fruits and vegetables as much as you are able to. Of course, all foods are important, but having fruits and vegetables in your diet, almost every meal you take, is very, very important for good health and for prevention of cardiovascular diseases. Now, talk about vegetables. Have got the multivitamins, which are very important. A range of multivitamins from A to K, isn't it? Which are very important for our health, isn't it? That's one. Number two, vegetables tend to have potassium, salt. Now, potassium actually has countered the effect of sodium salt. Now, most of the salt we have, for example, table salt, has got exactly sodium salt. But sodium salt taken in excess raises the blood pressure. But if you take a lot of vegetables, the potassium component in vegetables counter the effect of sodium. So what am I communicating? let's reduce on salt consumption. Let's take what's just enough, what's just enough. On the other hand, increase our vegetable intake.
What about if people who have this should I call it a habit? To them, salt is never enough. So each time you serve them food, please bring me some more salt, and then they add in that raw salt.
Yes, we call it table salt, yeah. So table salt is one of the things you actually want to plan to live. I mean, the moment you start putting table salt in your food, just know you are getting already in excess of enough salt. Of course, some studies within our country show already as Uganda will take more than what is required.
Oh.
However, what I want to say is that God created that in such a way that we change to changing circumstances. We've got what we call taste buds. So if I start eating salt, the more salt I eat, the more I'll start feeling salt. When I reduce that, I say this food has no salt. But if I start reducing that salt, I'll still feel the taste of salt. So one of the things that...
So in other words, it comes from the mindset.
Exactly. So we need to get rid of table salt.
Table salt.
At least that one, let's really get rid of it. And of course, we still need salt. It's important in food.
Yes.
Yeah, so have your food, salt in food, but of course, not in excess. Just enough for the need of the salt you actually need. So table for salt off, but also reduce on salt consumption. Continue with our diet. Fruits have got a lot of vitamins, for example, vitamin C and the rest, and many other range of vitamins. So these fruits are also important. Remember, like we are still in the era of COVID-19. We always need these vitamins to boost our immunity. Yes, yeah. But of course, my focus is on cardiovascular diseases. Yes, yeah. So fruits and vegetables are important. But the other issue is always that you see, we don't have food. The fruits and vegetables are very expensive. Now, even if we have small gardens, you can actually grow some you can create some small space where you grow some vegetables within your small home environment. I've seen some people who actually grow some vegetables in pots. So all those are innovations to try and have access to vegetables. Yeah. So, and of course, sometimes we have these other trees, palm trees within your environment. Replace with a mango. Replace with an orange to give you a double benefit, the green you want in a compound, but at the same time you're able to get the mango. So all those are strategies we can use to actually have fruits and vegetables increase. Of course, when we don't have, then of course we have to go to shop and buy.
That's
I think those are some of the measures we need to increase fruits and vegetables. Now, what about other foods? For example, carbohydrates, carbohydrate foods. All other foods are important, whether it's carbohydrates, whether it's proteins. However, we advise eat them in moderation. Yes. So what happens is that there is always what we need within our body. But when we take in excess of what we need, what will always happen is that we now start accumulating and storing that food. Yes. And of course, carbohydrates have, when stored, they are converted for storage. And that's why we advise that, yes, eat carbohydrates, but in moderation. For example, if you know from morning to sunset, you stay seated, you're not really physically active, you're not using a lot of energy. You don't need a kilo of portion. You don't need half a kilo of portion to eat, isn't it? You may eat a small portion, but then you have your plate. 50% of that plate can actually be vegetables and fruits. And then a little bit of a quarter of that, you can have some of your carbs in there. Then some little bit of it inside, you can have your proteins. And then of course you can have some other things. Hydration, drinking a lot of water. Water is one of the most important things that really don't cause you harm. So you need to drink as much as you can. So what I want to say regarding diet, all foods are important, but when eaten in moderation. That's the key message.
What about those who feast on chikomando for a full week?
Of course, that's not health feeding for sure. It's not health feeding. But of course, sometimes circumstances force people towards the direction. But if we start creating demand for health food, the market will actually change.
That's true.
It's just that our demand is for chikomando. But if we start demanding health food, you'll see all these food that are sold locally. People will start changing actually towards healthier foods. But of course, we have to create that demand for the health foods. And then of course, I want to talk about drinks, soft drinks, for example, sodas, talk about these Minute Maids, and I mean all those drinks on market. Now, those drinks don't have a lot of sugars. Am I saying don't take them completely? The answer is no.
No.
Yes. Just take a little. Take more water. Just take a little for just celebration. Yes. Yeah.
Like tomorrow is Christmas. I've already ordered for quite a number of them.
Yes, I've been to one place in this country where you go and find that because people don't drink alcohol, now they have created an alternative for alcohol. In these big bottles of mineral water, 1.5 liter. You find, about 6 men on a round table, each one of them with a little, 1.5 liter of maybe Fanta or Coca-Cola or any other of those products. And of course, when they finish, they refill. So it's actually not advisable. Yeah, just take little for celebration because you're taking so much sugars into the body that you actually don't need. Yes, and of course, those too much sugar result into some of these consequences we actually want to avoid. So I'll just talk on that for dieting. Yes, and now I'll move on to stress.
Stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So stress is the other risk factor. No one makes a decision to say that now I want to get stressed. No, you never make a decision. Circumstances will just follow and you find yourself actually stressed. However, it's important to know what are those things that are causing you stress. That's very important. When you get to know what are the things that are causing you stress, and then start thinking of coping strategies and mechanisms to deal with them. Of course, some of the things we have talked about, physical activity can help you remedy some stress, for example. Proper diet can also help you remedy some stress. And of course, social gatherings, family life, gathering together can also remedy some social stress. So stress is very important. However, we never cause it. We never make a decision to get stressed. You can make some bit of decisions around, for example, what food to eat. But stress sometimes can come from an angle you don't actually expect, but you actually get stressed. Yeah. However,
and before you realize you're already stressed.
Yes. Yeah. So you need to develop some coping mechanisms to be able to really address that stress, and also recognize some of the sources of stress and deal with them. Now, and I want to say one thing that these risk factors confer synergistic effort. They help each other, so to speak, to increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. I'm going to emphasize that. Yes, I just want to let you know. But before I emphasize that, I also want to say that the risk factor, there are those ones which are what we call distal, they're a little bit distant. But then there are those that we call the proximal, they're a little bit close to causing the CVD. Now the distal are largely the physical activity I've talked about, the smoking, the diet, and those others. Now these ones increase their risk of the distal risk factor. These are largely physiological, for example, high blood pressure, which is also called hypertension. Now hypertension can also come as a result of those others. Of course, there are also other genetic causes, but I'm emphasizing where as individuals we can actually come in to make a contribution. So hypertension is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And in fact, most of the cardiovascular diseases, conditions in sub-Saharan Africa, so to speak, are attributable to uncontrolled hypertension. Now, the beauty with hypertension is also controllable. But the problem we have in our setting, many of us don't know, even when we have hypertension.
That's true.
I'll ask you, Edrine, have you ever taken a blood pressure measurement?
Yes, I do.
Yes, when did you last take one?
Last month.
Excellent, you're one of the very few. Yeah, because if I look at our studies I've been doing in Mukona and Wikwe, many people don't have the opportunity to test blood pressure, check for their blood pressure. And of course, if you don't know, hypertension is called a silent killer. Exactly. Two, it doesn't cause symptoms, it's called asymptomatic. You not always have symptoms, but actually you'll be moving with it. But yet it causes a knockdown. All of a sudden, somebody gets a stroke. Then they rush to the hospital. They say, hey, this person has hypertension. So hypertension is important to check regularly, wherever there is an opportunity, such that you know what are my numbers. Yes, if my numbers are high, then you take measures to even start with these lifestyle factors. Of course, if they are necessarily so high, then you may need to go into medication.
Well, doctor, I think our time may not really enable us to go beyond this point. But maybe I want to promise our viewers that we shall have Dr. Geoffrey even next Friday, taking us through the continuation of what he has not talked about. Therefore, if you're blessed by this program, please remember to tune in next Friday and also invite a friend, a brother, a sister, any relative to watch the next episode, because it will be a continuation of this. But as for today, thank you so much for watching. Church of Uganda Family TV, and thank you so much for watching Health Pod. Edrine Austin Mukalazi is my name. I've been with Dr. Geoffrey Musinguzi. However, I work with Jonah Jao, the producer, Bantam in transmission, and Tony Santo on social media. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your day. God bless you. We meet again next Friday.